morning. It's Friday all day today. Friday, August 29th. What is up, members, subscribers, moderators? Thank you for joining us. Idaho State Police Informant Report. Woo! I fired him as an informant because he is a pathological liar. That is the title of your episode today, as far as the ISP reports go. Yeah. Also in this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday at that hearing. So join us. Don't mind if you can hear anything in the background here. If it's not a wood chipper. So if you hear anything going on in the background, just totally ignore it. So again, good morning. Ooh. We're also going to be building a little bit of this timeline. I want to say that I think Victoria Gooch from the Idaho State Police had to be very, very confused when she interviewed Dylan Mortensen, because she wrote up 11 or 12 pages of a report, okay? So it's very detailed, compared to, Moscow Police Department that wrote up, maybe a page, half a page with when they were interviewing people. And Victoria Gooch, when she interviewed Dylan Mortensen, and this would have been with Detective Blaker on the 17th. Yeah, her report's 11 pages, I believe. So, but, all right. Let's jump right into this one really quick. And then we're going to talk about this timeline and what happened yesterday at the hearing. So, this is report 201, and I call it the ISP Informant Report. And I call it that because, well, you will see that this was written up by Darren Gilbertson. First thing I want to say is if you actually go through the Idaho State Police reports that are right under, I think, 210, you're going to find for the lead investigator, Darren, right here, Gilbertson, I was expecting, if I was to write his name, how many different reports he would have had written as the lead investigator. But I was amazed when I saw that there's hardly any reports written by Darren Gilbertson. So there are no reports. I'm going to go back and double check, but I don't think there's any reports that are written by him prior to the arrest of Brian Koberger. I'll be double checking that, but so this was written, so as you can see, it's going to be right before 2025. So in November of 2024, this gets approved. And so normally when it's getting approved, that means somebody else is looking over it. And that would have been done just a couple of days before you actually did this. So, see, on October 29th, 2024. So literally this would have been after discovery was due on September of 2024. So let's go ahead and talk about it. On October 29th, 2024, I, Detective Sergeant Darren Gilbertson, received a request from the Latah County Prosecutor's Office to follow up on a tip from blank, who stated he had information on the quadruple homicides that occurred in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. Now, if he's getting this request from the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, the defense was inquiring about something, and then therefore, the Latah County Prosecutor's Office is reaching out to Gilbertson, and so this is what he does. Blank is an Idaho State Correctional Institution inmate and was interviewed by Federal Bureau of Investigations Agent Ryan P. O'Neill. Okay. This person made numerous claims during the interview about the circumstances surrounding the murders and who was involved. Well, I don't know when this happened on this date, because this is when you were told to do something. Is this then when you did it? Okay, so I don't, normally there'd be a date there, but this is just saying that this person who is an inmate, Idaho State Correctional Institution is an inmate there. He was interviewed by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. So my question is did you interview then the FBI agent who did this interview? So Blank made numerous claims during the interview about the circumstances surrounding the murders and who was involved. He stated the house where the murders took place was a location where he provided quote unquote security to individuals who delivered unknown items to the house. He stated he did not know what they were delivering, but understood that what they were doing was illegal. This inmate referenced several individuals by nicknames, but did not know any full legal names. His main associates were blank and blank. On one of their trips, this inmate stated that they were leaving Lewiston and heading for Moscow when a car crash happened in front of them. He stated the driver was ejected through the front windshield but survived. He stated he stopped at the crash and waited for police to arrive, spoke to them briefly, and then continued to Moscow. He stated this happened at 3 a.m., exactly 30 days before the murders. The murders occurred on November 13th, 2022, which by his statement would mean that the accident occurred on October 13th, 2022. I searched ISP District 2 calls from this date and did not locate any crashes that matched his description. I then contacted the Nez Perce County Sheriff's Department and requested they check to see if the Sheriff's Department or Lewiston Police Department responded to any crashes on this date which matched his description. They could find no records of the Sheriff's Department or LPD responding to a crash matching the description. I requested they expand the search to October 12th and 14th and still not find any matches. This inmate stated he was later punished by blank, this name, for stopping at the scene of the crash. He said that this nickname broke both of his feet. He stated he was in jail from October 28th, 2022 through December 9th, 2022 in both Spokane County and Kootenai County. On October 31st, 2024, Detective Brett Payne of the Moscow Police Department contacted both the Spokane County and Kootenai County Sheriff's Departments. Spokane County stated that blank was arrested in Airway Heights on November 23rd, 2022 for assault. He was then transferred to Kootenai County for a warrant. Neither detention center had any records of this person having broken feet. Why would they have records of that, first of all? Kootenai County reported having blank listed as having blank blank. Additionally, the dates of his incarceration do not match what he stated in his interview. On October 31st, 2024, I followed up with Special Agent O'Neill about the interview he conducted with blank. Special Agent O'Neill stated that he had a long history with this person and that he used to work as an informant for him. And I said, okay, boom, finally, we're getting some admission here. Now, who is FBI Special Agent Ryan P. O'Neill? Okay. He is with the FBI. Okay. Gilbertson contacts Special Agent O'Neill about that interview that he conducted with that person. And O'Neill stated that he had a long history with this person and that he used to work as an informant for him. So this kid, whoever this is, used to be an informant for the FBI. Okay, now watch this. He stated he eventually fired this person, fired him as an informant because he was a pathological liar. Well, I guarantee you probably would have used him at some point, right? Because it would be like a hire and fire same day. What do you mean? Anyways, Special Agent O'Neill stated he continually sought out law enforcement to try to help himself out when he got into trouble, but he never had credible or reliable information. He fired him. How do you fire an informant? What? Special Agent O'Neill stated during the recent interview with this person, he did not find him credible and did not believe anything that he said in the interview. Okay. Now, we have no idea who this person is, right? But the word informant is used. Firing an informant is used. And the FBI is who had the informant, okay? But the question here, or what was supposed to happen here, okay? Let's just take another look at this. On October 29th, 2024, if the Latah County prosecutor reaches out to you, hey, received a request from the Latah County prosecutor's office to follow up on a tip. Follow up on a tip. Follow up. So this is how he followed up. This is how Gilbertson followed up on this tip. He didn't go and talk to the dude. He regurgitated what the interview and report from O'Neill had, okay? He had Detective Payne just look for, they both just looked at what the day before and the day after the 13th, right? 12, 13, 14, okay. And didn't go and interview himself, okay? Has Payne calling, okay? And I'm like, okay, well then let's look and see if Payne wrote a report about what he did. Okay. It should be in the reports from the Moscow Police Department of any supplementals that Payne would have been involved with, right? So you can go and cross-reference to see if Payne in October at the end of the month of 2024 was doing anything like this. And basically at the end of the day, the 12th, 13th, and 14th, that's what we looked at. That's all we looked at. We didn't look at any other days besides that. And we just went off of what the report said before. And basically, I asked O'Neill, and this guy used to be an informant for him, but he fired him because he was, a pathological liar. Well, you would look into who this informant was and what cases he helped, if any, right? Get somebody convicted, because if that's the case, fuck shit. Anybody that has a case out there that this person was an informant for, I'd be asking for an appeal immediately, because if S.A. O'Neill used this person's information knowing that he's a pathological liar, get fucked. You can't do that. They ask you that. So it's like, why not just go talk to this person yourself? Make some type of an effort. But so I gathered that, okay, the way that they followed up with it was Darren Gilbertson believed that it was good enough to send Payne to see if there was anybody that went to the hospital on the 13th, 14th, or 15th, okay? Or 12th, 13th, 14th. See if there was a crash around that time. And that's, nope, there's not. Okay. All right, let's talk to S.A. O'Neill and see what he has to say. Well, fuck shit. You like that? Well, fuck shit. Let's just, he said he only had nicknames, right? Nothing like, I mean, wouldn't you just want to talk to the guy? So let me get this also straight. Who did the interview? Who conducted the interview? Who conducted the original interview of this informant? Clearly, Ann Taylor got shit that she went all from the FBI's files. That's what I want because they did everything. Who originally interviewed the person? So you're going to sit here and tell me that don't even tell me that the interviewer was O'Neill, who has bad blood with him, right? Who did the original interview with? And I'm guessing O'Neill stated that during the recent interview with blank, he did not find him credible and did not believe anything that he said in the interview. So based off of that, as I'm guessing, is O'Neill. So O'Neill, did you put that in your report? Because I think that would be in your report, and you would be listing all the other times that he's lied to you in other cases to show that you believe that he's a pathological liar. I mean, just wow, right? I know, right? MRM says, LOL, fuck shit. Why do bad words make me laugh? Right? Right. I just looked at the date on this, okay? This date to me just really stuck out. October 29th. Latah County prosecutor is saying, hey, I need you to follow up with this. Why? It's clearly got some type of legs that Bill Thompson needed to have. Hey, we have to do something here. Wow. Like just. I mean, don't you think Ann Taylor would have got her happy ass down there and interviewed this motherfucker? I know I would have. I would have tried. Regardless on who you think it is. Okay, nobody knows who it is for sure. Regardless on who you think it is. I don't believe that this is, I think this is wild to me. Okay. This is how they followed up on a tip from this person. He stated he had information on the quadruple homicides that occurred in Moscow. Now, let's look at something here. Where is it? Okay. How about this? How about this one? Did anybody follow up on this? How about this? What about this souped up car here, this white? The Audi. What about the Audi? Was that followed up with? No. Okay. How about this is the first time that they did a it wasn't until October 31st and November 1st of 2023 that members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Evidence Response Unit, ERTU, and they are from the Salt Lake City division. There's a bunch of different divisions. They went to 1122 King Road, and the FBI teams completed multiple 3D scans and photographs of the residents and surrounding area. Prior to the members entering the residence, Idaho State Police Detective Jeffrey Talbot completed a walkthrough. I confirmed the residence was structurally the same as it was on November 13th, 2022. At the request of OPU Special Agent Bill Denman, I downloaded a copy of the .3D scan copy from the November 13th, 2020. I completed on, that's interesting. Doesn't make any sense. That's it. Okay. Now, This is the Sutton walkthrough, report 198. Right before the house was tore down. On December 21st, 2023, Sutton, blood stain pattern analysis consultant. Remember I told you guys I was coming with this? They did not meet with a blood stain pattern analysis consultant until December 21st of 2023. And here's the proof. And they also present were Latah County Prosecutor's Attorney Bill Thompson, Ashley Jennings, Brett Payne, Darren Gilbertson. Sutton completed a walkthrough of the residence. Prior to Sutton entering the residence, Talbot completed a walkthrough of the residence. I confirmed the residence was structurally the same as it was on November 13th, 2022. Okay. Now take a look at this. That's all there is. Just so you guys know. Nothing else. That's just it. Okay. Now that was report 198. And it was written on January 9th, 2024. Okay. Now, just 3 reports before that. Report 195. This is throughout the Moscow homicide investigation, Detective Hugh Powell, ISP, conducted video evidence recovery from various businesses. This is what I was. All videos were turned over to the digital evidence team located at the Moscow Police Department. Not to the evidence locker, not to Tim, whatever his last name is, the coordinator there, but literally we just brought it back to Moscow Police Department. Okay. So look at this. On November 20th, 2022. Fuck out of here. Okay, so this is all about collecting the video surveillance tapes, okay? On November 20th, 2022, Detective Powell, met with the security manager at blank. Blank is located at blank in the city of Moscow. Digital evidence was downloaded from their security cameras. I turned the evidence over to the digital evidence team located. Who is the digital evidence team? Who is the digital evidence team? You know, like, that's why Ann Taylor's over here when she's trying to get information. Okay. Where would I find these videos? I have no idea. You'd have to ask, like, Payne. I have no idea. Mowery. I don't know. Okay. On November 22nd, Detective Powell met with manager from blank, 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 located at blank in the city of Moscow. Digital evidence was downloaded from their security cameras. I turned the evidence over to the digital evidence team located at the Moscow Police Department. I'm like, okay. Then on November 22nd, blank, 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 located blank in the city of Moscow. I turned it over to the digital evidence team located at the Moscow Police Department. November 22nd, November 22nd, November 22nd. Look at all this. November 22nd, November 23rd, November 23rd, December 13th. Okay, now check this out. I said, wait a second. I said, you know who was doing that shit was Barrett or Dollinger. So then you got to come over here and find the Idaho State Police report. And I did. Okay, here we go. Ready? Now, this is where it gets a little funny. Okay. You go and get the Idaho or the Moscow Police Department report. Okay. And this is why Ann Taylor was like, something's off. Look at this date. He writes up the report on 11/21/2022. So therefore, you can't you cannot physically have something if you don't have it yet. Right? If I don't go and get a donut until noon, I can't possibly eat a donut at 8 o'clock in the morning because I don't have it. Right? Right. Okay. So take a look at this date. 11/21/2022 is when he wrote the report. On November 19th, at approximately, so now we're even going to go further. So shit, man. So he's saying on November 19th, I met with Detective Mowery, who tasked me with downloading surveillance video footage from several USB memory drives. Okay? Detective Mowery gave me multiple small manila envelopes which contained USB memory drives collected from multiple different investigators. What a report. This is an amazing report. Detective Mowery asked me to download the videos from all of the drives and to place them on an external hard drive, which he provided to me. Once that task was complete, Detective Mowery asked me to copy all of the videos from the portable hard drive to the M drive for the City of Moscow network, where he created a folder where working copies of the videos could be stored. After downloading the videos from the individual USB memory drives, I placed them back into the manila envelopes they came in. And I sealed them with the evidence tape. I did find 2 of the USB memory drives, which came from the same envelope. They did not contain any video footage, and I returned them to Detective Mowery. Once all the videos, like how many? Thank you. And guess what? We just delete comments like for that. Once you would have had, okay, so this is happening on November 19th. Okay. That means I can't be downloading anything in this little sesh right here from somebody that turned stuff in on November 22nd, right? Or the 23rd or December 13th, right? Okay, perfect. So going back to this, November 20th, November 22nd, November 22nd, November 22nd, November 22nd, November 23rd, November 23rd, December 13th. So here's me when I read this originally from Moscow Police Department. I'm like, wow, who kept track of, wow. We have no idea which ones these are, but I can tell you right now, they aren't these ones. They can't be these ones because they didn't have them yet. And seeing how late in the game this was written up, Ann Taylor wanted something. And so Idaho State Police wrote this report because he's like, oh, I got those ones. And I gave them over. And so I don't know where he's getting these dates that he did this, but they definitely can't be from this. And I'm like, how many did you have? And again, this is your chief. Now he's the chief. Boom. Next, I'm going to show you guys. This is a report from Detective Mowery he wrote this on 11/19, okay? When he realized that Snyder called him out and said that he had gotten this shit, okay? This stuff from 1112, the SD, he got the password, he got the username, he's basically able to run it from the back end. And so I want to point out that right here. Okay. When Detective Mowery talks about that he reinstalled the camera in the light socket and it powered on, and that he was able to watch as whoever lived there accessed the footage on the camera. During this time, the camera showed a vehicle entering the area at approximately 3:56. Okay. So we know the 3:56 entry. Okay. And leaving at a high rate of speed at approximately 420. All right. So check this out. Do you understand that they originally determined when he wrote up this report on 11/19, he wrote up this report. And if you're watching everything, you would have saw that at 3:56, there was a vehicle, right? We all know. But what about the vehicle that comes at 4:01? I mean, not 4:01, at 4:04. Point being is that they originally said that this vehicle at 3:56 was the vehicle. So that they saw a vehicle enter at 3:56 hours and leaving at a high rate of speed at approximately 420. They were saying that the 3:56 car is the 420 car. Everybody understand that? Because it's really important. It's because they knew on 11/19 that the 407 404 car, they knew that that was not the vehicle. What made them switch their minds up? Okay, so think about this. You're writing a report. You could be talking about all these different cars, right? Because there's a Molly's SUV enters up in that bitch. And so, but here, 3:56 and leaving at a high rate of speed at 4:20. This person provided the videos to me. I uninstalled the camera and seized the wireless router. Look at how this is all chopped up. When he got the SD card, he was claiming Mowery was attempting to view the contents of the SD card. I want to know when on November 18th. He said I plugged the card into a write blocker and it still was not recognized by the computer. I used FTK Imager version this to make an image of the SD card. Now that the data was on a drive recognized by the operating system, I then used the Axum whatever version to parse data from the card. In reviewing the data, I found over 13,000 individual images from the card. They appear to be individual video frames from the camera. While attempting to view the data on the card, I received a forwarded email from CN, whose sister is a resident at the residence. The email stated that he was viewing the video remotely when Officer Morris removed the camera. He stated that he saw a suspicious vehicle in the area and was concerned with the video footage stored on the device being overwritten. This doesn't all sit well with me here. I think this is all made up. This is why. Remember I told you guys about this? Report 26, he writes up first. See, 11/19/2022 at 10:06. Then on 11/19/2022 at 18:55 hours. 18:55 hours. So 6:55. So he writes this one at 10 a.m. The one that he writes up at 10 a.m., he does not disclose anything that he was given the password, and he could basically run the portal from the back end on the 13th. Okay. So think about how many days this is. 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. It's a lot of days. And he's writing up this report to let us know that on November 18th, I logged into the Uber law enforcement portal, and he had to make a request to save for any location data associated with Eric. Because Eric did not come forward and say, oh, hey, Dylan then texted me, and then I texted her back, and I just never heard from them. He doesn't say that. Ever. So he says, I did that on that day. Then I also did this. In a screenshot received from Olivia, it showed messages which appear to be from, homie, Eric, between Kaylee. Then it is unknown if Eric was on duty with Uber at the time of him picking up Gonsalves. Then I said, wait a second, it's unclear. I said, wait, no, it's not. It's unclear. Eric. Here's his report. Idaho State Police Detective Gary Tolson and I, Mike Van Loofen. Oh, that's right. These fucks. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, well. There you go. Let's see. What does he say right here? Blank said that the ride was off the books, meaning that it was not managed through blank. Okay, remember now. He writes this up on 11/19/2022. Eric's interview was on 11/18. Okay. So when Mowery is stating, when he's writing up his report here, don't even know why he's even. It is unknown if Eric was on duty with Uber at the time of him picking up Kaylee in Madison. Uber stated if the driver was on duty, it would show the location of the vehicle. If the driver was not on duty, Uber would not have that data. I was informed by Uber customer service this is common if the driver provided personal transportation services. At 14:34 hours, I received an email, blah, 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 stating that Uber received my request. And just so we're clear, when Uber got back, he goes off duty at 1:15. So they would not show his locations after 1:15. In this interview on 11/18, for the record, I believe that Eric, he told them that he could come to the station on November 13th because he was in Coeur d'Alene on Sunday. and that he would be back and that he could talk to whoever and he would be back around like 5 or 7 on the 13th. You're going to sit here and tell me that you guys didn't interview Eric Grower until November 18th? That's when ISP did an interview. When did Moscow Police Department do an interview? They don't have one written up. You're going to sit here and tell me that you guys don't think that they interviewed Eric Grower? And hey, okay, let's call that bastard in now on November 18th. That's a lot of days. Now, because Mowery is just untruthful, after writing up this lovely 19th at 10 a.m. report and talking about foolishness here about Eric and Uber. Okay, so he writes that report on that day. And then he realized, oh shit, the day before I was talking all mad crazy shit. And I'm going to have to come clean and admit that, yeah, on November 13th, I was informed of a possible surveillance camera located at using this, and I was given the email account. So look at Snyder provided me with the username and password. Yeah, on that day. Because why do I have to come clean with this now? I have to come clean with this now because Schneider wrote up a report. And his report says that you gave this to me. And I've been able to be in the back end of this shit. And the family, the Gonzalez's who were speaking to these people, they acted like they didn't have any access to any of this shit. Okay. Another thing I think is crazy is see. Let's go back to this. Okay. Wait, hold on. Okay. So I then today pumped out a ridiculous request. Well, I'll just read it. Part of my FOIA. Let's go to, what number is it? Request T from part 1 is reference supplemental report number 4, Ryan Snyder's body-worn camera. I am looking on 11/13/2022. Ryan Snyder took pictures with his camera. I want those pictures, but the interviews obtained on his body-worn camera while neighborhood canvassing of King and Queen Road, and the written notes of those interviews, specifically interviews and time spent at 1112 King Road when he obtained the SD card from the light bulb camera. I am looking for all radio communication made by Snyder to Detective Mowery pertaining to this camera, as well as any dash camera or body-worn camera audio revealing any information that was passed on to Detective Mowery pertaining to this light bulb camera. You can also reference that Officer Ryan Snyder interviewed witness BP. If you need her name, I will give it to you, or his, about a dog barking at 4 a.m., and then interviewed PC at 1112 at her address for the light bulb camera. I would like text messages between Snyder, Mowery, and the homeowners of or residents of 1112. Come on now. That's going to be an interesting one. Because the reason I ask is that I was told that the SD card was never turned over based upon Schneider's report. But then again, you can't go by people's reports. So let's just get the real thing. Because somebody sped up those seconds. Remember on the video when the car is coming around, somebody sped up those seconds, right? And when I went back to check all this out, I thought it was very interesting that what's being sped up on that video, okay, that when you go back and look at what he wrote up on the 19th, they are associating the 356 car to the 420 car as the same one. So for me, it's like, what do you know about the 404 car? What do you know about the 404 car that you're just totally dismissing the fact that you don't think that it is the car that speeds away at 420, right? So think about it. 356 car, they're saying is the 420 car. Then it changes that, well, the 356 car is also the 404 car. Could you maybe discern that, hey guys, the 404 car isn't the isn't the 356 car and isn't the other ones, because we have actually the Linda Lane camera footage, and it can't be. It can't be, because we actually have Linda Lane camera footage from, let's say, 330 to 405. Huh! Now, doesn't that make more sense? Think about it. Come on, y'all. Woo! This is some wild shit. I'm showing you guys in real time how this totally happened. Like, the best part about writing up a report and when it's dated and timestamped is you can't go back and fuck with it. All right. So they knew what they knew on November 19th. And this is where I think Ann Taylor is just honing in on when she's talking about they knew that the 401 car on Ridge Road was not suspect vehicle 1. Because suspect vehicle 1, like, if you read these reports, it's like the 404 car never even enters in there. Again, on November 19th, while reviewing the videos, he's writing a report, he's making it seem like this is how he knows about it. Okay. He's writing this after the fact. We've already caught him now in a lie about he did not disclose that on November 13th he got the passcodes. Okay. So now we're supposed to believe him that's saying that this is how he found out. On November 19th, while reviewing the videos located at 356 and 420, it appeared the vehicle left the area and may have traveled on Walenta Drive. However, the video stopped. In an attempt to see further and gain perhaps a better resolution, I reconstructed the wireless network the camera operated on by powering on the wireless router. I downloaded the HomeEye Pro app on my work phone. What? I was able to use the app and download the video clips. These clips included audio, which were not a part of the screenshots completed, and were able to capture a longer duration. In the clips, the video's exhaust and acceleration can be heard, as well as seeing the vehicle leave at a high rate of speed on Walenta Drive. Exactly. The 356 exhaust and the 420 exhaust are the same. No mention about the 404. After capturing the clips, I disconnected the camera and Wi-Fi router and placed them into evidence. The videos are placed onto a DVD and placed into evidence. Look at this. Okay, check this out. This is the front of the page of the same one, okay? On 11/19 at 6:55. So he's like, shit. Okay, now I got to talk about on November 13th. I really got this, but you've already talked about the camera. Okay, so now you actually read Snyder's reports. You got to talk about this and that you had it, okay? Then you talk about now on November 17th, I requested assistance from John Rosinski to reconnect with this girl and see if she could provide the video from the camera. What did you do, Mowery? And then we have supposedly a guy or somebody by the dumpster at 3:20. And now that we see that those dumpsters are just completely cleared out, I want to see what the dumpster looked like at 3:20. Was there trash in this dumpster that you guys saw on my last live when I was going through the videos and the pictures to show you that there was nothing in that blue dumpster. Nothing. Then, based on my training and experience, okay, hey, this is first in, first out, man. Right? So I requested the assistance from Aaron Morris to go to the residence and unscrew the camera from its location. Aaron Morris's report. On 11/18, I was asked to conduct a follow-up on SB. 11/12. So I'm like, okay, this can't be his report about what he did. Okay. This is somebody else. Lawrence Mowery wrote a report on 11/18. He thought it was more important not to tell us about the password that he obtained, but hey, Olivia reached out to me, Gonsalves, and showing me that Dylan Mortensen is on social media and in the post, the account username for whatever, reported details about the incident. I want to see this post. I searched for the user and found a user ID of blank. This account had an avatar similar to the Mortensen avatar. I was able to pull up the account and it appeared to have the following friends associated with it. I requested preservation on all 4 of these accounts. What did Dylan say on social media? And nobody seemed to ask her about that in any of her questions for her interviews. So again, on November 19th, without a doubt, they are associating the 356 car is the 420 car, and they are associating it to this vehicle's exhaust. Okay. Now Mowery on 11/17. On November 15th, I received an email from Steve Gonsalves, the blank of the father. He stated he had access to some of Kaylee's messages and phone calls. Steve stated he would have blank blank contact me about some of those files. I was able to speak to Olivia, and she sent me various files, including an image from the spokesman review showing camera on a nearby residence. She also sent me text messages between Kaylee and Jack D, text messages between Kaylee and her Uber driver, a recent phone call list, and video from the grub truck. I attached these files to the case file. The communication between Kaylee and Decor was located on Decor's phone examination. Now, this is where I was just blown. What? This is written on 11/17, but this is on November 15th. Okay. And when did you write this on November 17th? When did you have Decor's extraction? Where is Jack Decor's interview from 11/13? Mowery's over here acting like he interviewed Jack Decor, or somebody did at the Moscow Police Department on 11/13, and that they extracted his data from his phone. And then Van Leuven's over here saying that we then, Idaho State Police, we extracted his phone, but when we actually took it from him because Jack Decor was without actually a phone when the Idaho State Police interviewed him. And they like took his phone, and then it got passed all over God's creation for a couple days. So Mowery's over here on this day acting like he's already seen Jack Decor's extraction, making it seem like he's already seen. And I'm like, wait, when? When you're writing reports that's saying that you'll get to looking at that stuff, you don't make any sense. In the image showing the camera, look at how he talks about this camera like he doesn't know what the fuck's up. 11/17/2022. In the image showing the camera, it was found that that residence was at that location. The SD card from the camera was brought to the Moscow Police Department, but the file system of the card was not recognized by any of the forensic computers. The card was returned to the owner and reinstalled into the camera. Okay, so it's in the camera then, right? It's reinstalled in the camera. On November 17th, John Rosinski recontacted the owner of the camera via phone, stated that she was out of town, but sent a video to Officer Rosinski showing a figure walking to the dumpster and appeared to look inside. To preserve any potential evidence on the camera, I asked if we could seize the entire device. Dude, this is all lies. This is crazy. Again, this is what he's writing on November 17th. Then listen to how his tone changes then on November 19th. Now his November 19th report. Why are you mentioning Why are you mentioning November 13th? You've already done a report on this. This is your report, buddy. Mowery, this is your report from 11/17 where you like, okay, on November 15th. That's where you wanted to start. That's where you wanted to start about all this, right? You wanted to start on November 15th about the camera. Okay. But then here on the 19th, you realize, oh shit, man. Okay. On November 13th, I was informed of a possible surveillance camera located. Oh, Ryan Snyder had spoken with one of the residents at this location. He who had a camera using the Home Eye app. Snyder provided me with the username and password. Look at this. Is that right? I asked Snyder if this video is stored on a cloud-based system for me to view, or if blank could download a copy of the video. I was provided a 32 GB SD card. Now check this out. Is that right, Mowery? You are so full of shit. Is that right? Well, let's take a look at Snyder's report written on 11/13, the day of. I spoke with the residents at 1112 King Road, PC, informed me that they had a camera facing the west of the address and they believe it captures portion of the road. They first provided me with the SIM card out of the camera. However, they could not get it to work, and neither could I. Okay. They gave me the username. He doesn't say I took it to Detective Mowery. No, he didn't. He didn't say that at all. He said that they're trying to get the SD card to work. I'm trying to get the SD card to work. Neither of us could. They gave me the username and password to the camera. I just informed Detective Mowery. Okay. I just informed Detective Mowery of the information, and they gave me permission to access the camera footage and record the necessary surveillance video. Do you understand? He recorded the necessary. Where did this happen? That means if he went back to the station and got on that and then just started recording and made his own shit. Okay. This is why Aunt Taylor's saying this camera, people, hello. Hello. No wonder you guys gave it to Dateline. It's manipulated. It's been fabricated. It's a piece of shit. It's not admissible. Okay. And all you have to do is take one good look at the time of 4:04. Ooh. Okay, we're back. We're back. Don't ask me what's going on. We're back. Okay. We're back. So, right here, when he says that I was provided a 32 gig SD card from the camera, but the file format was not recognized by any of my forensic computers and prompted me to format the disk. Snyder informed me that blank could screen capture the video from her phone, and the card was returned to blank to enable her to assist in the acquisition of the data. And I call bullshit. I personally believe, and this is just my personal belief, okay? My personal belief is that there is no way to now tell what is the actual footage. You can't, like, screen recording. What are you talking about? Like, you can't, that's not how this is. And so needing to write up a report on 11/19 way after the fact and having to then say, oh, I actually did have access to all of this shit on November 13th. Okay. That's why he acted like he did not know about shit when he wrote up the report that he did on 11/17. Okay. Until he sees that, holy shit. Oh my God. Schneider wrote in his report that he gave me the information. I'm so fucked. Okay. I cannot get over the fact that it's just so obvious from these reports. Detective Mowery would be ass smacking. Annie's just smacking that ass in court if this would went to trial. So let me get this straight. You write up a report. You don't mention anything about November 13th, right? Is that right? Is that because you didn't read Corporal Snyder's report yet? You didn't know that it was written? So then on the 19th, then you write up another report. And now, oh, hey, I want to tell you what happened on the 13th. Ann Taylor would just be Mowery over her knee, smacking it. This is why there wasn't a trial. Hello? Again, doesn't make Brian innocent, but it just says that, hey, this is insane. Is that right? It's absolutely right. Dateline got manipulated footage. And then they put it out. Fuck out. Oh my God. Okay. So again, right there. This is why Mowery had to walk his shit back. But now the question is what happened to the actual footage between November 13th and November 19th, to the point of beginning on November 19th is when they started to provide footage to the FBI to look at what car this is. Okay. So, again, just going based off of what they were doing, that car that does like a 3-point turn, all that stuff at 407, all that crap. That's somebody that's living there. In my personal opinion, they're trying to find a parking spot. It sucks to park late at night around college campuses, and also if you listen to what Dylan's been saying, the 356 car, right, that comes there. That's Molly still there, right? Yeah. And she's over here saving contacts at 351, and then she's talking about Keely going upstairs, and then poof, everything starts, she's saying, like at 4. Okay. And so if you're listening to what Dylan is saying, right, and you're over here talking about the 356 car, right, then what's up with this? Then something has to have happened. Okay. Something has to have happened where they're like, oh, fuck. Because they move and they're like, well, we're going to say that the 356 car is also the 4 whatever car, 404 car, because we're just going to take reasonable doubt off the table. You guys know what I'm saying? When you take reasonable doubt off the table, it's like, we can't have them say that. We have to say that all these cars are the same, Because otherwise it's like, well, why couldn't it be that car that's the killer, or this car that's the killer, or that car that's the killer? Well, they're just all the same. We're limiting that possibility. But it is 100% undisputed that in the beginning, they weren't going that route. And in order to do that, they would need to get rid of Linda Lane from 3:30 until 4:05. And just miraculously, on November 15th, Vargas gets this email that she forwards and makes it into a report and says, oh, yeah, again, Mowery's getting the back end of everything. Okay. And that this camera isn't recording. Only the one out of the 4 isn't recording at that time. I mean, it's basically like stuff wasn't adding up for them. Stuff had to be eliminated in order for it to ride like this. It doesn't make it's just it's Now, I want to know what he's talking about here, and that on November 19th, while reviewing the videos located at 356 and 420, it appeared the vehicle left the area and may have traveled on Walenta. However, the vehicle stopped. Or, I'm sorry, the video stopped. Now, what do they mean there? Like the video stopped? How did the video just stop? This is like a running video. In an attempt to see further and gain perhaps a better resolution, I reconstructed the wireless network the camera operated on by powering on the wireless router. I downloaded, like, what? Like, sounds good, Mowery. Just sounds good. So now we can all see here in the flesh, like, boom, flesh. Mowery never, Schneider never says that he brought that to him. Okay. Never once. Said that he brought anything to him in his report. So I just know how I would attack it, is I would be asking Schneider on the stand. Schneider, can you reference your report? Okay, did you look at it all? Okay. Anywhere in your report state that you gave Detective Mowery an SD card? No, it doesn't. Okay. And you look at how detailed you were with your report. I mean, you basically took the time to write every single video or photograph that you took. Isn't that right, Schneider? Yeah. You wrote the number, the imaging number, and then what it was. Like, you were very, very detailed in this report, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure was. Okay. Okay. I have another question for you, Schneider. Right here in your report, if you could reference, you said that Jack went to the police department and was interviewed. Do you know who interviewed him? Let me see. It says that Jack, yeah. It says Jack later responded to the police department to be interviewed and then picked up the dog from the Moscow Humane Society shelter. Okay, so based on your report, you have personal knowledge that Jack Decor was interviewed at the police department. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Is it because you saw him there? Do you know who interviewed him? And then this would have occurred before then he went to pick up the dog at the Humane Society shelter, right? Did you see him go there? Who gave you that information? Would it surprise you to hear that the dog was stolen from the Humane Society? Excuse me? What a surprise. So this is where I got the information, guys, that Jack DeCore was interviewed at the police department because Ryan says so. Well, how many people have gone through all the Moscow Police Department reports? Have you guys found the report where Jack DeCore was interviewed at the police department? Have you guys found that? Who interviewed DeCore? Was it Payne? Was it Blaker? Was it Mowery? Which one of those three people interviewed Jack DeCore? Does anybody know? Let's take a look at who. Was it Payne? Let's take a look at Lawrence Mowery. He writes this report on 11/28. And he says, on November 13th, I was directed to interview potential witnesses in regards to the incident. Okay. He interviewed Dylan Mortensen. Next, he interviewed Hunter Johnson. Next, he interviewed interview 3, Jenna McClure. And this boy, LB. My interviews were video recorded and have been uploaded to the case file. Okay. So nowhere in there is there Jack DeCore, right? Next, Mowery writes up a report on 11/30. And he says that on November 13th, I was directed to interview potential witnesses in regards to the incident at 1122 King Road. During this process, I was tasked with extracting data from the following phones: DM, BF, JD. I was like, wait, what? EA and MC. Now, and I said, wait a second. Jack D was his was done at Idaho State Police and it had to be passed all over. But now this written report is saying that he extracted Jack DeCore's phone and did it using right here. And there was no issues. Upon completion of the extractions, the phones were returned to their owner. Okay. So I'm like, wait, what? And then he's saying when he wrote this up, a forensic examination of the phones will be completed at my earliest convenience. Do you want to know what that means? A forensic examination of the phone? I mean, of the phones? It means like you actually like what are you doing? This is how I also know, just want to point this out to everybody. This is how I also know, see the date here. December 13th is when it was written up. But on December 1st, 2022, the Chapins were in town on November 30th for the for an event. Anyways, on December 1st is when Danny Vargas was asked and assisting interviewing the Chapin family. This is how I also know that if you take the interviews from December 1st from the Idaho State Police that were doing the victimology backgrounds, that all centers around all of the Chapin interviews were only done on the 1st of December. That's how I know another way that the 5th, on December 5th, the interview about dating the roommates, one of the roommates and Xana is not Hunter Chapin. Okay. So you match it up, you cross-reference. Good old Danny Vargas here. Looky here. LB, the same person that Lawrence Mowery interviewed. Okay. Never got his phone though. LB was the boyfriend of Josie, right? On December 15th, I was requested to complete a forensic extraction on a Samsung cell phone provided by LB. B signed a consent form to search form, blah, blah, blah. But it was provided to him by Detective Hugh Powell. So I went and cross-referenced when Hugh Powell was interviewing people. This is when they started realizing, okay, see now Mowery's writing things like the phone was powered on and I placed it in airplane mode to protect any potential evidence, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not what was happening with these other phones. So you're learning Mowery. But this is when people are starting to have issues with what the, if anybody thinks that the police just accepted what the roommates were saying is the gospel, that it's just not true. Okay. But I think they were trying to size up what they were saying with what was going on around the area. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but on one of the episodes, or in, I don't know if it was James Patterson's book or one of the episodes that came out, I think it was the Amazon. They asked Josie, the cops came back to you and asked you a question about, like, did you, like, basically, were you walking around, like, did you leave your apartment and go somewhere or something like that? And she's like, oh yeah, I left my phone in my car. So I went from my apartment, I walked to where my car was and I got my phone out of my car. Okay. And, went back into my apartment, but that's what she's saying, that she, and I said to myself, well, you want to know why they would come back and ask you that? It's because when they downloaded these phones and they got these phones, right? You're definitely looking at the health data of these phones and you're seeing that they're taking steps, right? And so if these people are just saying like, hey, we were up, but we were just in our apartment, like just chilling or something like that, if there's an extensive amount of steps on someone's phone at a certain time. And so I'm really curious of what time that is that would be happening. I find it hard to believe that you would have left your phone in your car. Okay. Especially if the phone is actually, at the time that you're saying it was in your car, if there's any apps being, like, in use, then that's going to look really bad. But so I have a question. I've always wondered this. Ready? Here's my question. There's no way that I would be able to ever write a report that's 11 pages long and me write in the report and say that Dylan was scared to go into Xana's room when she's walking by or whatever. And then literally in the next paragraph, I'm writing that Dylan said that there was no threat when she saw the person that she saw because people were coming in and out of their house all the time. Now, how can I write that in one paragraph, that one sentence, and then literally in the next paragraph, write that sentence? And as a detective, not say to Dylan, okay, it's hard for me to understand this. If you felt no threat by the person that's in the mask, right? Then why would you be scared to go into Xana's room? When you woke up in the morning, why would you be scared to go upstairs? Now, since you were scared when you woke up and you asked somebody to come over, right? In the moment, you didn't ask anybody to come over, or you didn't call any friends, or you didn't, ask people to come over. I get how people maybe wouldn't want to come. Like, what I'm trying to say here is, if you put yourself in the shoes of a detective and you would ask these questions so that you can get these answers, right? Hunter Johnson says to Eric Warner that they tried to wake up the person on the second floor. He also says the same thing to Detective Mowery, that they tried to wake up the person on the second floor who was laying on the ground. The girls did. And that they wouldn't wake up. Now, if you go to this, you're questioning a survivor of a mass. No, I'm questioning a cop. I'm questioning a cop. I'm questioning a cop. If you don't understand the difference, I can't help it that you're not that bright to understand the difference. This has nothing to do about Brian Kober's guilt or innocence. This has to do with, if it wasn't for Othram, could they have solved this case? What do you think? And the answer is no. Okay. So right here, I'm saying, as a detective, if you're writing things out like this, ready? Dylan advised that when she left her bedroom, she looked down the hallway to see Xana's bedroom, and she could see Xana lying on her back in her underwear. But she thought at the time Xana was passed out. Okay. Dylan said that she never went into Xana's bedroom, and she could only see Xana from the hallway as she was running to get to Bethany's bedroom. Well, according to Bethany and according to Hunter, the door is partially closed. Also, it matters on how Xana's body was and where it was located, because that would impede you from being able to see anything, depending on all of that. Also, the way that Xana's body was is her head was more towards the west, which is the opposite wall, and her feet towards more like the east. And so that would be another thing. she advised that she was too scared to go into Xana's room. And now that's where I'm just like, as a detective, to like write that and type that, right? And she knew blank was awake, and she knew to go there because she was scared. So it's like, wait, she's saying that you're writing the word scared, you know? She saw Xana wearing her underwear, and she explained that Xana was comfortable enough with the roommates that she would wear her underwear around them. So but I don't think I understand why Dylan was asked that question. Vicky Gooch does a really good job there to ask, oh, so she would have been walking around the house in her underwear. You know what I mean? Because like she goes and gets the food. She got her, supposedly she's getting her food. She gets it, eats it. She's out in the kitchen just with her underwear on. You know what I mean? That's why she's asking those questions. So she's trying to understand that. When asked about the lighting conditions of the residence, and then you go to it's, I think, a really good opportunity to see like the time frame here when she's saying that right here. She knows that Kaylee and Maddie were home when she went to bed. And it's like when she went to bed or when she went in her room. Because according to the body cam, it wasn't like she went to bed. She was, okay, Kaylee's going to go upstairs and go to bed. I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to bed. So when she went to bed. And Bethany, and from when she saw Xana lying on the floor, but she was not certain about whether Ethan was home or not. And right there, it should tell everybody everything that they need to know on the fact that Bethany nor Dylan, well, at least let's just say Dylan, never saw and never conversed with, according to Dylan, she never saw Xana or Ethan come home. And based off of the body cam, she was up and until, her phone's showing that she's up. She's saving contact at 3:51 in the morning. This would put Ethan and Xana not home yet. And this is something that I think, like I've said numerous times, is significant, because when you're going to be talking about somebody being dropped off, if Ethan and Xana walked home from Sigma Chi, they went somewhere else, you'd want to really get into their phones and see if there's any location data on their phones, and to see like where they possibly went, if they were texting people, what they were doing. And so when Detective Mowery's over here just saying how he's not getting into phones and not looking at them and forensically extracting them and examining them, forensically examining them, that he'll do that at another time. And he doesn't even have these phones back in his possession until like the data from them until like 11/28, 11/29. She denied perceiving a threat. This is the part that she denied perceiving a threat even after encountering the male in the hallway, because there were people coming in and out of their home all the time. Now, this is really weird that Victoria Gooch does not get more specific with this. When Victoria asks her about this black truck, she advised she remembered that cars do come by their residence a lot. And she said that there was a black truck driving past blank's window. And she further said that she was not absolutely certain it was a black truck, but there was a vehicle that went by their residence and she could see the taillights, but she did not remember if the headlights were on. Okay, now let me explain something to you. If you are, first of all, if you look at the pictures that I showed, Bethany's blinds are completely closed. Okay, that could have been, after they would have saw this or whatever. But she has those blinds where you like actually just use like a little string on the left side or the right side or like a chain and you're like flipping them like that. And they go from side to side. And they're like the bigger ones. Anyways, in order for you to say that you didn't see if the taillights were on or off, that means that you were looking out for an extended period of time, in my opinion, to be able to see a car that's coming, and how you would be describing that. Or if I'm to say like, yeah, I couldn't see, there's cars kind of blocking. So we're able to see stuff once, in between the cracks of the cars but she was saying that she was looking out Bethany's window. But what drew her attention to it was the red lights on the back of the truck. And when asked if she meant the tail lights, she said yes. Or I'm sorry, the brake lights, she said yes, like braking. And when asked about what occurred after she went, now, so wouldn't you ask her like, so this was after you were downstairs in the bedroom with Bethany, right? Like, I'm just trying to make sure that that's what you're talking about. It wasn't like in the morning, right? So, I mean, and she said there was a black truck driving past Bethany's window. And she further stated that she was not absolutely certain if it was a black truck, but there was a vehicle that went by their residence and she could see the taillights, but she did not remember if the headlights were on. Do you understand? If that can't be the getaway car at 4:20, right? And some change, because she's not down there yet, right? Because she doesn't go down there until she says after Bethany texted me, then I went down there and that was 4:27. Okay. So but if you ask her if everything happened in real time, then that means that she actually saw the person in her house at 4:23 and 54 seconds. But I'm just shocked that these questions weren't asked. Like, okay, hey, so you're looking at your text messages. Are you texting Bethany as you see this person? Wouldn't you ask that question as a detective? Because you're trying to get this timeline down? Also, ready for this? Now, based on the interview that she gives, she says that now that she's gathered more information, wouldn't you want to ask her what information did you gather? Because all of these people are friends over there, okay? And you better bet your bottom dollar. I know for me, if I was Dylan, I would be, oh my God, let me see all of your photo. Let me see all of your camera from your, I would be saying, I've looked at the neighbors' cameras. I was trying to remember all this stuff and like put a timeline together. Wouldn't you be saying, like, you'd be asking the questions of like, what do you mean by that? Once you've gathered this more information, like what information are you talking about? Because that would affect what Dylan's recollecting, right? Versus, okay, now I just believe this because I saw this. So then she just goes on to say, okay, well, all right, the black, we got this black truck. What could this have all happened way earlier? But if you find out and you ask somebody, well, no, I was texting as this was happening. Okay. Um, but when asked what occurred after she went into Bethany's room, now this is what's interesting for Gooch for me to see that she just says, she said that they eventually fell asleep. What? Well, what did she say to you? What do you mean? She didn't say anything then? She just said that they eventually fell asleep and that when she awakened, she was lying next to Bethany in Bethany's bed. I said she had to say more than that. What? She advised a friend of theirs, blank, and blank's mother are planning, whatever. Then she goes into more of this, which is when she was awoken that morning, blank was next to her in bed. They were both too scared to leave Bethany's room to even go to the bathroom. And I'm like, that's contradicting to saying that you perceive no threat. But then she advised at approximately 11:23, which was actually 10 because they're looking at Boise, which totally makes sense. She asked Maddie if she was up, and then she asked at 11:29, Kaylee, are you up? And then she could tell her Snapchats were not being read. Everybody knows how that works, right? You can look at it and see that nobody opened it. Dylan advised that she called, I believe it was Emily, but could be somebody else. Dylan then explained when she reached out to this person in the text message, which blank told her was at 10:50 a.m., but she thinks blank was mistaken. And so I looked at her possible text messages to see who she could be talking about. So if you actually look at, when you look at what the state was wanting to propose, the state's evidence will show that DM and BF went to sleep after 4:37 a.m. The state seeks to introduce the following phone records from the next morning from DM and BF. Phone records. DM, this has to be a mistake, right? Because it's not from DM to BF. Unless they're DM to Maddie, DM to Kaylee, BF phone call to Jen McClure. And then Ann Taylor's like, well, why aren't you looking at the whole thing? Which is BF calls her dad, BF calls her dad, BF calls another number, BF calls her home, BF calls her mom, her dad calls BF, 8:05 and 43 to 10. DM is on Instagram, 8:41 to 8:42. BF takes photos. 9:04, mom texts BF. And then from 10 until there's a message incoming and outgoing Snapchat. And so she said 10:50 right here. And DM is on Instagram and messages on Snapchat. And what's interesting is that DM tells one of the officers that, oh, if you don't see my phone, like calls and texts, it's because I switched over and started using Snapchat. So, but that would mean that whoever advised her that, hey, yeah, you reached out to me at like 10:50, it's going to be somewhere in that. So, but she thinks that this person was mistaken. Blank told her she would send, and I'm guessing Hunter, to their house because of their concern about what had occurred during the night. And then here, I think this is why DM's like, I think she's mistaken because I called her at 11:50, right? But go back to the lingo here. Blank then explained when she reached out to Blank in the text message. Okay. In the text message. So Emily, whoever this person is, which I believe it's Emily, is being honest and saying, well, no, I mean, she texted me earlier and was saying that she's, whatever was in that text. Okay. And so she texted me this. And then, yeah, she then, of course, yeah, there is that phone call. Okay. And, but it's very obvious here that what Emily Alon's just saying is that I was notified about a masked man in their house. All that stuff was at 10:50 earlier. And it was in a text. It was in like the text format. And this aligns with at 10 a.m., Josie's boyfriend saying the same thing. I find it hard to believe that they would mix that time frame up, because I think you would just say, oh, it was right before we walked over, she called or she texted, for you to say a specific time. I think it was like at 10, But then as a detective, you would say, okay, well, how much time between when you heard about this and when you went over to the house? How much time had elapsed? I remember this is the interview with Detective Gooch and Blaker, and it's on the 17th of November, and Bethany's was on the 16th. And something that you're not going to see in any of Dylan's statements is anything about Murphy ever being missing. I thought that was really, really interesting, is that Bethany's over there talking about Maddie came into the room. Hey, do you know where Murphy's at? Do you have Murphy? I don't have Murphy. Murphy's lost. And so I think as a detective, I would have asked Dylan, hey, so let's talk about Murphy. Where was Murphy when the girls came home? Okay, then what happened? Did they take Murphy out? Like, do you remember seeing Murphy? Do you have any pictures with Murphy? And I would go about like that way, not saying, oh, hey, this is what Bethany said. Is this what no, you just ask her to talk about Murphy. And again, maybe it's in the recording. It's just you can't write down everything. You might as well just transcribe it if you want that. But she advised that they stayed in the house when the police arrived. And the police, were putting up the tape when they realized there had been a crime. And when they saw the ambulance arrive and leave, Blank told them they would not leave unless there was no reason to stay. That's awful. That is so awful. She said that Kaylee had a balcony and she remembered looking at the pictures in the news. You guys see what I'm talking about here? And Kaylee's curtains were all messed up. She thought the distance of the balcony to the ground may have been too much and brought too much attention if that is how the suspect made entry into the house through Kaylee's bedroom. I looked at all those pictures. I want to know what picture she's talking about. It would have had to be before November, obviously before this interview, where the curtains are all messed up. You know, but that's the type of like the influences that she's watching the media, she's watching social media, she's watching the grub. I would have already seen the grub truck by then. Would have already talked to all these friends, and so um she advised when she first got home and she went to Kaylee's bedroom to let Murphy out of Kaylee's room, and Kaylee's lights were on and no one was in Kaylee's bedroom. Murphy came back into the house after going outside. Okay, there you go. Um, let's go back to a little bit of this timeline here with I still have no idea who interviewed Jack Decor at the Moscow Police Department. But this is the November 16th. Dustin Blaker, write up for Bethany. And if you go to that timeline right here, where she walked home around 1, and Dylan and this person were the only ones in the house. Bethany, Dylan, and this friend were watching Vampire Diaries for a while. And at around 1:22, okay, this person left. Blank left. And because they were looking at, like anybody would do, you'd be looking at your like messages with people, and hey, or that person, like, so Dylan went to her room after that girl left, and around 2, Keely and Maddie came home. And I remember that Noonan's was trying to say, okay, so they would have probably closed down the bar, so what time would they would have gotten home, And so she knows, like, yeah, they got home at 2. So Maddie, Kaylee, Dylan, and Bethany went up to Kaylee's bedroom once they got home. Kaylee was getting ready for bed as they were hanging out in her room. And remember, there's confirmation that Maddie's black jacket was in Kaylee's bedroom. Bethany, Maddie, and Dylan went downstairs, and Maddie and Bethany took Murphy outside to let him go to the bathroom. Bethany only stayed outside for a short time, and she went back inside to her house and put something away in her cupboard. She put something away in her cupboard. Well, definitely didn't put the butter away. And grabbed a bag of chips. Now remember, there was chips in the living room. Bethany went downstairs to go to bed. Now, maybe there were chips in her room too. I don't know. But Bethany stated nothing was unusual about Maddie and Bethany demeanor. I think he meant to say Kaylee's demeanor when they got home. Bethany said they both appeared to be happy. Bethany said Maddie was highly intoxicated and she did not remember her being that drunk for a long time. Now, Bethany said when she went to bed, she was using her iPad to watch a television show off of Hulu. And this show is Baby Daddy. So she was watching Vampire Diaries upstairs. Okay. Then when she goes downstairs, she was watching Baby Daddy on the iPad. Bethany could not remember what episode she was watching or how long she was watching. As she was watching the show, Maddie came downstairs. So this is specific to say that she didn't call her. She goes downstairs, physically goes downstairs and asked her, hey, if she had Murphy with her because she could not find him. And now I put this little side note here to say at 2:53, remember Maddie's phone calls Bethany's phone. And yet there's no question about like, hey, did you talk to any roommate? I mean, we noticed a phone call here at such and such time for 2 minutes and some change, you know. Bethany told her no. Bethany said her door was locked and she normally locks her door when she goes to bed. Okay, so that means that she would have locked her door, which means that when Maddie would have come downstairs to try to tell her about this, she wouldn't have been able to get in. So she would have had to get up and let her in. Or she talked to her through the door being locked and just saying, hey, do you have Murphy? You know, I don't know. Bethany told me she eventually turned off the show and her iPad and went to sleep. Remember, she told Noonans that, yeah, she probably went to bed right between like 2:30 and 3. Okay. Bethany said she woke up after falling asleep to hearing what she felt was a firecracker go off. And she thought that she saw a sparkler going off through the crack of her door. Bethany stated she did not know what happened. Either Bethany called Dylan or Dylan called Bethany. And now we know that Bethany called Dylan, right? And so this is where I'm of the opinion that if we go backwards, it would be you know, 419, Bethany calls DM. DM calls Xana, DM calls Kaylee. Okay, so, but she doesn't know who calls who. And she says that, now, either Bethany calls Dylan or Dylan calls Bethany. And Dylan stated she thought she had just seen someone dressed in all black in the house. Okay, now check this out. That she had just seen, not like that she had just seen. And but you just told her that Xana was wearing all black. Now, Xana did not come home and was not home. So take a look at this. Xana was not home before Bethany went to bed. Xana was not home before Dylan went to bed, okay? So if she just talks to her on the phone and they're talking about whatever, and now check this out. This is just what doesn't make sense. Is that if Bethany calls Dylan, that means Dylan doesn't do anything. Okay. Dylan isn't doing anything until she's alerted by the phone call from Bethany. Okay. Now, if you actually listen to Dylan's reports, and she says that when she hears this, the sound and someone's here. She's calling out to Kaylee. She's calling out to Xana. Then she actually physically calls them. Okay. And she does not say that, hey, Bethany called me. She's like, I call them. So I'm curious if there's phone calls before this. Because Ann Taylor said that these are not exhaustive of them, but that would mean that they were deleted and that they're just not letting the state know about them yet and not letting the public know about them yet. Okay. And that there's stuff before that. Or that it was Bethany alerting to Dylan to something, and then Dylan's then immediately doing what it says that she does here. She calls. Then she calls Bethany back and they talk for 41 seconds. But she's saying, and in her interviews, she's saying that when she's doing these calling out and calling their phones, that this is before ever seeing him. Okay. She does not see him until after she's called out to them by voice and by phone call. All right. Which cannot possibly put her telling Bethany at this point right here that she had seen a guy in a mask yet. Again, when you want to put everything together, you have to, so that means this right here, none of this. I should say, I take that back. 4:20 and 8 seconds. You have between 4:20 and 20 seconds to 4:20 and 28 seconds, which would be that she's also making these phone, like how she said, she's like, this person would have heard me calling out to them, calling their phones. Okay. Opening up my door, doing all of this. Also, they would have heard you on the phone with Dylan. I mean, with Bethany. So not only would they have, this person would have heard this, that she's never talking about that. And so if you see here, like Bethany is the one that tries to call Xana. Then DM calls Maddie. See, so don't look at what Bethany did. Bethany did. Go back here to what DM did. See, no one is answering. I'm really confused right now. Well, she's confused because of what Bethany told her about a firework going off and that there's firecrackers. Okay, that's what she's confused about because she didn't hear that. Remember how she says that she's like, I texted out Kaylee, what's going on? Okay, so she still has yet to see the masked man if she's writing, Kaylee, what's going on? Because she says to you're texting, you're yelling out, you're trying to call, right? And then here, yeah, dude, what the fuck? And then all you would have to ask her is, but here, it wasn't Dylan that says anything about, but Bethany says, look at how much time goes by. You can't look at that timestamp. You have to look at, it's like a minute and you have to look at this one. DM says to BF, I'm really confused at 4:22 and 11 seconds. Do you know how long a minute in, so she says again, right here. You know how long that would feel to somebody when you're texting them? I don't know. I'm really confused right now. And so if Bethany's just sitting there not doing anything for a whole minute not to respond to that, that's a long time when you're waiting and when you're just firing off stuff. But here, Bethany does something on Snapchat. Then she says, yeah, dude, what the fuck? Then she says, Xana was wearing all black. So how it would look is that you saw Xana? What do you mean Xana's wearing all black? But anyways, you slice and dice it, is right here, you get to, no, it's like ski mask almost. Right? And all you'd have to ask them, is this in real time? Like, when would you have said that you had just seen the masked person? Right? And guess what all of these times mean? All of these times mean it's well after the car left at 4:20 in 47 seconds speeding away. Especially that's just when the car's speeding away. You still have to get to the car. And now I know why they're so adamant on, hey, this could have been done in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And hey, this could have been done in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Yeah. The reason you need to prove all of that is because of all of this that's going to come out. That Dylan says it over and over, how she calls out to her roommates. Okay. She calls them. And it isn't until after all of that that she sees this masked man. And it's way after the 4:20 and 47 second car that's driving away at a high rate of speed. $420. Bethany calls DM. 419. DM calls Kaylee. DM calls Xana, and DM calls Kaylee. Now, I'm going to tell you something I think is interesting. Why would she call Xana first if she thought that she heard Kaylee crying? Wouldn't you call Kaylee first? And now that would be a very tough, like, if I'm a juror and I'm seeing that. Okay, well, you thought that you heard Kaylee crying, but you called Xana. Okay. But we definitely know that at 4:20 and 28 seconds, when DM calls BF back, whatever they talk about for 41 seconds, it could be who knows? Who knows? No one is answering. I'm really confused right now. I'm freaking out right now. No, it's like a ski mask almost. That's where I would say that where you're freaking out right there. No, it's like a ski mask almost. Okay. That's where I believe that Bethany told Dylan what she had saw. Okay. Because how you're writing this is you're saying, no, it's like a ski mask almost. Like she's describing back to what Bethany led her to all believe. There was a firecracker, there was other things, and she's like, no, it's like a ski mask almost, because then boom, that's when she would have seen it for her to be saying something. Or she walks over to potentially is in Xana's bedroom, or sees Xana on the floor and she has like a ski mask on, or she has, I have no idea, but I can just tell you that if you go off of the time of that car speeding away and you go off the time of what Dylan's telling you, and she says it to the cop and go off of that body cam, and that she's calling out and she's calling them, and there's nobody's answering the calling, then she's hearing crying, and then but this person would have been hearing all of this. This person would have been hearing her calling them. The phone's ringing, would have heard her calling out to them. And so if you look at all of that, you're putting the phone call, or you're putting seeing him way later. And so it has nothing to do with that car speeding away at 4:20. And then if you actually want to dissect this really, really deep, is Dylan says that she goes downstairs after she received a text message from Bethany at 4:27. She's looking at her phone. Well, there is no text message. DM makes an outgoing call at 4:27, 11 seconds and I'm over here saying no. I'm like, I've done this so many times. When she makes this run to go down is before 4:27:11 starts. It's during, I'm so screwed. Okay. She's like, it's better than being alone. You know, when she says run down here, it's better than being alone. This is the rundown, is between 4:25 and 16 seconds. So she's looking at her phone though, Bethany or Dylan, and she's talking about that it was after a text message at 4:27. That's when she makes the rundown. And I'm like, why is she thinking that? Why is she saying that? That's not accurate. And if you're looking at your phone, how are you possibly getting this wrong? You know? And it's like, I have no idea. We all know that we can slide over and you can get the times of everything. And so here, if you go back to this and you see Bethany said Xana had been wearing all black. Dylan responded by saying she thought he had a ski mask on. Bethany said she didn't really know what to say to what Dylan had said. Do you guys see that? Like, you're putting that on Dylan. What? She didn't know what to say to that. And she says, I didn't really know what to say to that. What do you mean? Within 6 seconds, she said, shut the fuck up, actually? Like, what do you... Bethany admitted both her and Dylan get scared easy. Bethany even thought maybe one of Ethan's frat brothers could have been playing a joke. And that's the first time that this is ever said. Bethany told Dylan to come down to her room, and Dylan ran down to her room. Bethany tried calling Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan's phones, and nobody answered. Bethany said it was normal for Kaylee, Maddie, and if not to answer if they'd been sleeping. Bethany looked at her phone, and it showed Bethany called Dylan at 4:19, and at 4:20, Dylan called back. During the call, Bethany asked Dylan if she heard a firecracker, and Dylan said she did. And that is absolutely absurd that that's in writing. Because Dylan said that she did not hear that. But why is Bethany under the impression that she did hear that? And here it's clear as day now. We don't have to guess anymore. This is what the phone call is about. It's about, did you hear the firecracker? It's not about Dylan saying, oh my God, I saw a masked man in the house. That's not what it was about. Bethany called her to ask her if she heard the firecracker. Okay. Bethany could not recall if it was during this call where Dylan was talking about seeing someone in black walking in the house. See? Because it was not. Once Bethany and Dylan were in Bethany's room together, they continued to talk about what they heard and saw. Bethany told me Dylan said the male in black was walking out the back door and they had made eye contact with each other. That's the first time that she's hearing about it, is in the room. Besides, obviously, that text message, but look at when the text is. And then this is why Ann Taylor's like, oh my God, she's not seeing any of this shit. It's after Bethany calls her and jolts her into like this, oh my God, you hear this firecracker, blah, blah, blah. And then she's just, because there's nobody in the house at that point, if you're going off of the state's timeline. That's what Ann Taylor has been trying to say, is that you got somebody going and leaving, and you're saying that they would have had to leave the house at, I don't know, like 4:19, 4:20. What? And she didn't see this beforehand. Okay. Because then when Dylan gives her recreation of everything, she's like, yeah, I called them all and were yelling out and everything, and this would have happened after that. And so it's just not like you're not able to square away the testimony. You're not able to square this away with what they're saying. And so then you get her saying, Bethany said, Dylan said the male was white with a big nose. And if you could see someone's nose, they're not wearing the mask. Okay. And that was problematic. And that's why Dylan denied saying that she ever said that to Bethany. And so Bethany said Dylan said the male was white with a big nose and that he was possibly holding a small vacuum type object. Bethany and Dylan. And I just think that they need to release the audios of all of this because we see how much different the audio is from what's written. Okay. And so Dylan could be reading these and saying, this isn't what I said. And Bethany's over there like, this isn't what I said. And I'm going to agree with them. I'm going to be like, yeah, exactly. So these aren't the words of Dylan and Bethany. And it's like, you have to release this audio because they deserve some vindication here because you guys are writing down. It's provable now if you go and read Noonan's report and you listen to Dylan's body cam. Okay. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, yeah, wow, this is crazy. And I just don't think it's fair. Nor is it accurate. And the PCA, you might as well just rip that shit up and eat it. You know, but Bethany and Dylan did not call 911 at the time because Bethany thought Dylan was imagining what she was talking about. And it's like, what are you talking about? You just called her and told her the firework went off. But now it makes sense with the timeline is that Bethany's not believing her, right? Which means that she had to have told you that after you called and said what you said. And then she's like saying all these things and you're just like, okay, like, dude, remind yourselves, this is November 16th and all these other influences. So when you're being interviewed, it's sad. They just need to release the audio. And I think the PCA put these girls in such a horrible, horrible spot because Dylan kept saying, I don't know. And she's talking about Vampire Diaries. She's like, well, we were watching this and this is it and this is this, you know, like, gosh. But they needed, like, they used them to get this, you know, seal up the conviction, you know? And Now, Bethany stated both her and Dylan were both still drunk and they were very groggy. I don't know why she's speaking for like somebody else. I wouldn't be doing that. But that's where a big clash comes in the timeline, or with statements rather, is the girl was like, what is she? Wait, we saw her. She wasn't drinking. I'm shocked that she's saying that. That's an interview I would want to hear. Exactly, Erica. They totally use them 100%. It was, we're going to use them to however we're going to make this, I mean, whoever it's going to be against. That's what I feel that they definitely used Dylan. And then the big part they left off the ticket was this firework and firecracker that led to everything. A flashbang, like a cop style thing. So that's how cops, distract. Um, and that was left off the ticket off the PCA, which that's where Ann Taylor's saying that that's exculpatory. It's things that she heard and things that she saw that they were like, oh shit, we can't do any of this. We can't talk about any of this. Bethany told me prior to hearing the firecracker, she thought she heard Murphy bark. She also heard what she thought was the beer pong table moving and cups falling. The beer pong table was located in the living room, which is above Bethany's bedroom. Bethany stated she was not sure what the sequence of events were for sure, but she knows she heard Murphy bark, the beer pong table, and then the firecrackers first before she called Dylan to see if she had heard the same thing. And that call was at 4:19. Which is just so interesting, that call. It's like Bethany told me she tried calling Xana Maddie at 4:21, and then they tried calling Ethan at 4:22. So hold on one second. I want you guys to see something. Okay, this is a really big slip, and this is how I'm going to leave you guys with a cliffy hanger. Right here, when Bethany says, Bethany told me she tried calling Xana and Maddie at 4:21, and then tried calling Ethan at 4:22. Okay, so $4:21, Bethany calls Xana. Bethany calls Maddie. Bethany calls Ethan, right? 4:21, 4:22. Bethany stated she tried calling Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana several more times once Dylan got into her room. Okay. Boom. 4:29, 4:30, 4:30, 4:31. Now, according to Dylan, she goes in. Well, if you look at she says she gets a text message from Bethany at 4:27, and then she runs down into her room. Okay, which there's no evidence of that. But if you look at where the gap is in time of her doing anything, the gap in of time is between 4:24 and 58 seconds. Okay, and 4:27 and 11 seconds for Dylan. That's that big gap of not doing anything with her phone. And it's a significant gap if you ask me, compared to like what's going on for all these time. And the other thing that's significant is, again, nobody's asking Bethany, hey, so or Dylan, hey, when you're texting Bethany, are you seeing this stuff in real time? Is it right after you would have seen this person? And I'm going to tell you something. You don't want to ask questions that you don't want the answer to. You just don't want it. So you have Dylan saying that she went downstairs at a different time than Bethany saying that she went downstairs. So I think that's interesting. And Dylan's not doing anything with her phone for that gap in time, which we all know how long it would only take to get down to that bedroom. It's going to just take, I don't know, 10 seconds to run down there, okay? Well, Dylan's not doing anything with her phone for over a 3-minute period. And so what was she doing? And now that's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Bethany said that she told me that when she went to bed, she remembers most of the lights being left on inside the house. Bethany told me after trying to contact the other roommates, she fell back to sleep. Nothing about a black truck or anything. And then when she woke up at around 7:30 and tried calling her dad about her tooth, Bethany called her dad again at 8, but there was no answer, but her house at 8:01 with the answer, and then called her mom at 8:02. And he answered, or because he can't do she's and he's, and then she would call back. Her dad called back at 8:09 and he talked to him. He talked to him. He's so bad. And eventually took the Advil. And eventually took Advil for her tooth. Well, no, she took the Advil for her tooth between 6 and 7. Bethany then fell back to sleep. Bethany woke up at around 11 and noticed no one else in the house was up. How do you notice that? Bethany stated she knew this because Xana's Snapchat location was not on, and it should have been. Well, that's not how she knew where anybody was the day before. She used the Find My Friend's phone app. So I think that that's significant. Bethany and Dylan got scared because they should have been up. Bethany then called her friend, Jenna McClure, and told her she and Dylan were scared and asked if she would come and get them. Dylan then called Emily and asked her to come over. Dylan and Bethany knew Emily was with Hunter, so they knew he would come over with her. Hunter arrived at the house and came through the front door. Hunter went up to the stairs first, and when she and Dylan went up to the stairs, Hunter turned around and told them to get out of the house and call for help. Well, Dylan's over here saying that she showed Hunter where the knives were, and all I keep thinking of is check the knives. All right, guys, until next time. So based on the timeline, what starts first? Bethany alerting Dylan to everything. But Dylan's over here saying, I know that Murphy and Kaylee were playing in the living room, dancing around, and then it was time to go to bed because Kaylee's going to go upstairs. She takes Murphy and they go upstairs. I hear them go walking upstairs. So I know that's my time to go to bed. And then I hear, oh my God, there's someone here. And she doesn't tell that to Bethany at all. She doesn't say in the text messages, oh my God, I just heard someone saying that there's someone here. Someone saying I'm here to help you. She's not saying any of that stuff. That's what I thought. Slam it down. See you next time. Everybody that's participating in chat, I love it. I give a shout out to my peeps, Angel Heart. Woo! $5 super sticker. Woo woo. Angel Heart says, $20. You know, we knew this case was shady way back, but I had no idea all the shade would come out, and I'm relieved it is. Peeps need to know all this shit, and Lana is the bestest. The hostess with the mostest. Oh, We'll take that. We love you, girl. Angel passed out 5. She turned 5 people green. Angel showing nothing but love, child. Let me just $20 super sticker. Angel $3 says what? Sandra became a new member. Thank you so much. Oh, love it. Kay Schmidt passing out memberships. 5 of them. 5 people turned green. Make sure you thank those turning you green. Cyber Ninja, did no one talk of smell of death? No, not that I've heard of. What is up, girl? 2.5 years of the goodness. 29-month member. How you doing, Hollywood? You a OG. Straight OG, girl. Crushing it. Angel Heart. Super sticker, $2. Thank you so much, Angel. And Sally Jesse Raphael. You guys remember that? Sally, $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you for the support. Redacted doing redacted. I told you I want blanks on blanks. How do you turn green? Green is through membership. They replaced the camera to make the trial runs with the undercover car and then had to explain it. They did something, didn't they? So, oh, we love you back. You guys, they were just going to leave these girls out to dry on the stand. And that's just unbelievable to me. You're just going to leave these people out to dry on the stand. And I can't believe it, you know? And people could say, well, they're lying or they're this or they're that. Dude, they kept saying we don't know what it was. And they're reciting the Vampire Diaries and not a single cop said to them, hey, look at this episode and look at what they're saying. Are you sure this is when, oh my God, yeah, that totally has to be what I was saying, like hearing. See, I told you I don't know if I was dreaming. Okay. And it's just, I personally think all that had transpired is, did you hear the firework? And that was it. And then I personally think that Dylan was calling people. Nobody was answering. And she's like, I'm really confused. And then maybe Dylan saw a little something in that first, second level room and ran down and, but yeah. I think it would make more sense that there's a reason that you didn't call 911. That would be more of a reason that you didn't call 911. Is that, but then they just, I don't know. I don't know if somebody told them that you're going to say that you saw a masked man. I don't know, because it would make you take that out of the equation, and it would make sense to me why you didn't call 911. But I don't know. Again, be kind to one another. We'll see you on the flip side.